Joining me right now, Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House and author of the new book, Trump's America. Good to see you, Speaker Gingrich. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good to be with you.
So leading up to this summit,
it's a pretty historic day.
Yeah, exactly. And leading up to this summit, we saw some negativity and doubt cast on the president's meeting with the North Korean dictator. What we've seen today out of Singapore has been friendship, unity. Your overall reaction?
Well, let's not get euphoric. I mean, even the president said in one of his comments that a year from now we may look back and decide it was a mistake. What we've had is a break from the tradition of the diplomats yelling at each other. We've had the president take a big gamble in being willing to meet with the North Korean dictator. And frankly, we had the North Korean dictator take a big gamble in leaving his country because he had no guarantee that there wouldn't be a coup against him. So both sides are taking some risks. The direction seems right. The fact that the Secretary Pompeo has been designated as the lead negotiator, given Pompeo's background as first in his class at West Point and a remarkable career at Harvard Law, I suspect he'll be a very firm, tough, realistic negotiator. But we're a long way from this being done. The one item I want to point out to everybody, we have a whole suite of weapons, from Trident submarines to B-2 bombers to ballistic missiles sitting in the middle of North Dakota and Wyoming that are capable of reaching North Korea in a crisis. So we can afford to take some risks in taking troops out of South Korea because our capacity to respond with overwhelming force, it's 28 minutes by ballistic missile from the middle of the United States to North Korea. And I think Kim Jong-un understands that this would not be an invitation to invade South Korea. And the South Korean army, frankly, is very capable. The president, I think, has moved us a significant step, but this is not a gallop. He didn't leap across to success.
Yeah.
He took a big step in the right direction.
Do you worry that, earlier the president said, look, I'd like to take the 32,000 troops in South Korea. I'd like to get them home. And it's not happening now, but he said I'd like to at some point. But he also did confirm that he is going to stop the military exercises that the U.S. does with South Korea. Your thoughts on that? Because Gordon Chang earlier said, look, this is a worry because readiness is real important.
Well, first of all, our troops get exercised all over the world. I'm not very worried about our ability to project power if we have to project it. But you also got to look at the question, if the North Koreans, as they apparently announced today, if they start tearing down their ballistic missile test site, we ought to do something positive. And if the most we're doing, remember, he didn't pull anybody out today.
Right.
All he said today was, we are going to look at this, and we're going to not have any exercises in the near future. Well, if this all goes to pieces 6 months from now, he can start up the exercises overnight. That's not a problem.
Okay.
We can project power from Guam, Japan, and Hawaii.
Russia's foreign minister is out this morning saying that he applauds the stopping of the military exercises. So we're hearing from Russia on this.
Look,
the readiness.
I think people need to understand how historic. Look, consider how historic this is. My dad fought in Korea in 1953. We have been at war with North Korea since June 25th, 1950. Now you have the President of the United States in a direct meeting in public with the North Korean dictator trying to find a way to get to a new agreement.
Yeah.
I think that's an enormous gamble and worthy of at least giving them some time to see if they can pull it off.
All right, well, this is something to watch for sure. Let me switch gears, Newt, and ask you about this. It's been reported that President Obama has been meeting with several potential Democratic candidates for the 2020 election. You've worked in politics a long time. What are your thoughts on Obama working to help the Democratic Party combat Trump-era politics? He's working, President Obama.
Well, of course, first of all, of course he's working. President Trump is systematically and methodically demolishing Obama's entire legacy. So Obama has every right, as a proud professional who spent his life achieving power, he has every right to fight back. And if you were a Democrat who's going to run for president and you had a chance to meet with Barack Obama, you'd be a fool if you didn't sit down with him, if only to be able to go and say to audiences all over the country, oh, when I met with President Obama. So he's a major player, but remember, there's also, as this economy keeps improving, as you've reported day after day, as we see more and more good things happening, Obama may at some point become a liability and not help, because it may well be that going back to the past may not look very good. I mean, if Trump pulls off the North Korean deal when Obama couldn't, I mean, he didn't even try, that will be a major breakthrough. If Trump gets us up to 4% or more real growth economically, we're already at the lowest level of African-American unemployment in history, much better than Obama did for the black community. I mean, there's a whole number of these things going on. I'm not so sure that Obama will be as big an asset 2 years from now as he still is in the memory of the New York Times and CBS News.
Who would be the candidate on the other side come 2020 at this point? Is there any that you can see on the Democratic side?
Oh, I think they've got 5 or 6 different potential candidates, ranging from, they have a lot of, first of all, they have a lot of senators who are running.
Right.
And I think that that'll be part of it. But I think that it's too early to actually think about this very seriously. Remember,
okay.
If we had been talking at this point in 2014,
yeah,
neither of us, and I include me, neither of us would say, oh, it's obvious Donald Trump is going to be the Republican nominee.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
All right, Newt.
And frankly, the same thing in 1991 in terms of Bill Clinton.
Yeah. Newt Gingrich, good to see you, sir. Thank you so much. Former Speaker of the House joining us.